wonderful food, extravagant food, rich food. And many of the members of our group either relapsed outright and felt very bad about it, or were very close to relapse. And of course, we know how important the environment is, and hopefully we'll talk about this, but a lot of them said, well, it was the stress of the holiday. It was because there was a lot of sadness. There was some loneliness for some of the people. There was some grieving because a loved one had been lost. And so, not to diminish anybody's pain and suffering, and we've been down this road before with emotional eating, I just want to help people feel better and not turn to food that they think is the reason that they're doing it is because of their emotional pain and it's making them feel better. So how can we solve some of these problems without food?
Yeah, it's such a big, wide topic. So I'll just start. You correct me, AJ, if I've wandered off course and I've forgotten the question. Okay. The first thing to do is to understand what emotions are and what they are not. So what emotions are is they are signals. That is their purpose. So they're precisely analogous to pain and pleasure. So they're slightly different in their function than pain and pleasure, in the sense that pain and pleasure are immediate feedback systems. Emotional systems are more anticipatory. So they're designed by nature for us to predict a good or a bad outcome. So somebody that just gets sentenced to 10 years in prison in court is sitting right there in nice temperature controlled circumstances with a nice chair behind them, and everybody's in suits and it's all civilized. And there's a cafeteria outside at lunch. They just had lunch before they went in there. But now that they've just been sentenced, they're sitting there devastated. Why? Okay. That's because emotions are anticipatory. So the person is now envisioning 10 years in the state pen, and they know that's not going to be any fun. So the same way when two people meet each other and they're all excited about, they feel attracted to each other. Why are they excited? They're having an emotion that's anticipating recurrent sexual ecstasy. That's what's happening. So this is what emotions are, is they're signaling devices to either warn us or cue us that there are good things or bad things happening, or that are possible. So a sports fan watching his team gets excited as the team starts to make a comeback. Okay, they're still down by 2 touchdowns, but they were down by 4 touchdowns a few minutes ago, and now they quickly scored 2, so they still got a chance to win. All right. So on the same way of speaking, the team that just blew a 4 touchdown lead is now feeling anxious and worried, and like that they could be a big goat and a bunch of fools because they could lose this big lead and lose the big game. Okay, so this is what feelings are, or emotions. Emotions and feelings. Feelings is a little bit wider because feelings are going to include pleasure and pain. So those are part of feelings. But those are physical, direct action on sensory nerves. So that's pain or pleasure. This is a specific kind of physical or chemical action on a nerve ending. That's what causes pain and pleasure. Emotions are different. They are a feeling that is predicting good things or bad things. Okay, so that's what that is. Now, when it's predicting good things, it tells you what to do. So, for example, let's suppose that you're some young guy that just met this girl in your history class and started flirting with her. Oh, that makes you happy. Now, what does that do? What that causes you is it causes you to start thinking about how to take the next step towards that good thing. Okay? Let's suppose you're in a relationship and it starts to go south and you start to feel sad and depressed and anxious. What does that make you do? It makes you think about what's wrong and how it is that you can figure out how to make it right, etc. It does not cause you to go eat chocolate. Why would evolution cause you to make that decision? Evolution is using feelings to guide your behavior in order to maximize your biological success. That is the purpose of feelings. So when the sports fan watches his team start to make a comeback, he doesn't say, oh my God, I'm so excited. Where's my wife? I got to have sex with her right now. It's not what he does. Okay. Now he may eat a bunch of chips right there. Why? Because they're there. They're there as an option for behavior of the sensory pathway to try to make a big profit by getting a few calories that are super easy, super cheap, and a really high calorie density. You might as well. You can multitask. You can watch the game and do that at the same time. Okay? So now when people start thinking, well, oh no, I turn to food for emotional problems. Really? Emotional problems are actually signals to tell you to do something about the underlying problem. They're not there as a signal to tell you to eat. They're not there as a signal to tell you to have sex. They're not there as a signal to tell you to go exercise. They're not there as a signal to tell you to go to sleep. They're not signaling anything. They're telling you to do something about the problem. So when people think that the reason why they're eating crap is because they have emotional problems, I'm like, really? Where in the history of evolution did it wire up eating to solve an emotional problem? It didn't. Okay, so very often people will go through a lot of trials and tribulations around emotional trouble. They'll cry. Okay, so crying is very definitely behavior that will take place as a result of negative things that will happen. The reason why that's true is it's a signal to your coalition that you're in trouble and you may need assistance. Okay, so you will have people will say, well, I only cry in the dark, Dr. Lisle, nobody can see me. Yes, but there is no dark in the Stone Age. You can't hide this. So there's no way that crying is an adaptive mechanism to try to signal to your coalition that you may need help. Okay, that you're kind of at your wit's end. You don't know how to solve the problem. All right. So right away, when we start to understand what feelings are, feelings, whether they be pain or pleasure. Okay, so when we bang our knuckle, okay, and it hurts, we don't say, I know what I need. I need a foot massage. Is a foot massage pleasant? Yeah. Is that what we're thinking when we bang our right knuckle? We knock it with a hammer? No, that isn't what we're doing. We're going to try to do something about the pain that's in the knuckle. Okay? So you can start to see why the notion, the theory, that people's emotional problems are driving them to overeat or eat junk food is very speculative. It doesn't really make any sense from the standpoint of evolution, that this would be how it would work. So now let's start to think about, walk through people's internal experiences. So they're having trouble. They're off their diet. Okay. There was some tumultuous events in their life in the last week, and now they're eating crap. Okay. Is it because of something terrible and that they are essentially medicating their nervous system because they've got this underlying emotional problem? Well, it is theoretically possible that there could be a little bit of motivation there, but it would be a bizarre one from the standpoint of evolution. What we would expect is that their time and energy would actually be spent plotting how to mitigate the grief or the losses that they were experiencing. It wouldn't be driving them to eat. That wouldn't be a particularly useful thing from an evolutionary standpoint. So I think that if we actually look at an individual's life that is struggling with this problem, I think we're going to find that they eat off-label foods all kinds of times. So they do it when they're happy, they do it when they're sad, they do it when they're bored, they do it when there's nothing else to do, they do it while they're on the computer, they do it off the computer, they just feel like having an adventure and going to Starbucks and getting a pastry. In other words, all the time. If you actually were to do a scientific taxonomy on the times when people go off program, it will not be consistently associated with some kind of an emotional crisis. Okay? Will there be times when it is true? Yeah, it will be. Is that the cause? No, because if that were the cause, we wouldn't see it any other time. So we have to look at this, and we have to say, gee, is the only time when people have trouble with this is when they're going through emotional problems? Okay. I don't think so. Okay, for one thing. Second of all, if that were true, then is the solution to fix all the emotional turbulence in people's lives, and then they're going to be able to do this well? Good luck. Emotional turbulence is a ubiquitous feature of the existence of all animal life. Okay, so your life is nothing but trials and tribulations. Every football team goes through a process of every game where good things happen and bad things happen, and good things happen and bad things happen. Sometimes 5, 6 bad things happen right in a row, and we're feeling a little depressed, a little defeated and frustrated. Okay, and then something good happens, and then we're feeling a little bit better. In other words, the nature of life is the nature of emotional turbulence. The notion that, and it has to be, just as your hunger drive isn't stable, and neither is your thirst, and neither is your temperature regulation, and neither is your sleep drive. Everything is always in flux, it's always moving, and it's always moving back and forth between positive and negative. That's the nature of life. Okay? So this pie in the sky notion that the reason why a person is struggling with making good food choices is because they've got emotional turbulence. Even if it were true, it would be useless information, because we're not going to stop the emotional turbulence. The emotional turbulence is an ubiquitous, constant feature of human existence. Okay? So first of all, I will submit that emotional problems are not associated with long-term outcomes with respect to, pleasure-seeking, addictive processes. It's just the correlation is so low. I could say that pretty serious turbulence in people's lives, very chronic, nasty turbulence, can make a difference in a big-time addiction like alcohol. A person. So now we're going to look at this from a slightly different angle. That a person's ability to withstand temptation in the pleasure trap is limited. And if you overwhelm the individual, overwhelm them with stress, it can reduce their ability to resist the temptations. Okay, so that is true. But that has almost nothing to do with anything that I ever hear of anybody struggling with food. The level of the struggles and the emotional assignment of blame for the problems with food compliance that I hear are trivial. They are no big deal. They are not the same level of acute life chaos that can go on, that can drive a cycle of destructive process and addiction. Food is not that addicting. It's mildly addicting, and it's not that disruptive emotionally. A bottle of scotch is. Okay? A bottle of scotch is highly disruptive to neurochemistry, highly disruptive to the person's day and the days that follow. In other words, this is a very big deal. It suspends all kinds of decent judgment. The chocolate bar doesn't do this. Okay, now, so what's really the issue? The issue is that that to try to live healthfully in the modern world, you're going 180 degrees against your instincts. That's the real problem. So let's not misassign the problem. If we've got this thing analyzed in the following way, that I know what I should be doing and I know what to do, and then I'm not doing it. So why am I not doing it? Because I've got so much stress and problems with my life that it's not fair for me to do this. I just got overwhelmed and I can't do it. Okay, that's what people will say. Right? Now, here's the truth. The truth of the matter is that doing this requires an exceptional degree of motivation and conscientiousness. So let me repeat that so that we get this clear for the record. Doing this well requires an exceptional degree of conscientiousness and motivation. Okay? What is motivation? Motivation is the movement that animals make based on a cost-benefit analysis of whether it's worth it. Okay? So a person's motivation to pursue healthy living can be variable across their lifespan. if they find out that they've got 4 coronary arteries plugged up, and that's the reason they're having chest pain, if they happen to be a highly conscientious individual that doesn't have a big self-indulgence streak and they run into Dr. Esselstyn, they may turn their life around on a dime. Okay? We may not see any indulgent dietary behavior for the rest of that person's life. Why? Super high motivation, super high conscientiousness. Right? Now, there's people that have a lot of reason to turn their lives around but won't. Why? Personality. Okay, their personalities are different. This requires an exceptional degree of both motivation and conscientiousness. And it's a bizarre degree of motivation and conscientiousness. It's not one that you'll almost ever see in people. The reason why is that you weren't designed to do it. There is nothing in your evolutionary design that is designed to go against your instincts. It's just not in there. You're supposed to follow them. That's why they're your instincts. So this kind of living, AJ, requires an extraordinary degree of both motivation and conscientiousness. If either of those two things is missing, we are likely to have transgressions all over the place. And when the people have transgressions, they may feel somewhat mystified and embarrassed about those transgressions, because they understand that somewhere out there may be people that would expect them to do this, and yet they're not doing it. And so one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to search inside themselves for the explanations. They're going to try to figure out the root cause, and they're also going to try to cover their reputation with respect to this. So they've got multiple reasons for looking for something to blame. And if you didn't turn in your homework, and you can't blame your dog, then what do you blame? Oh, my mother had a big crisis. She had to go to the hospital. I couldn't get my homework done. In other words, we blame the tumultuous circumstances of life, which made it impossible for us to do this. The truth of the matter is that there is no such tumultuous circumstances that stop you from making healthy choices. Okay? There aren't. What there is there's a lack of motivation and conscientiousness. That's what there is. That is in no way any shame. Understand that we're going to go back to what I said what was important. In order to do this, it takes an unusual, remarkable level of motivation and conscientiousness. It takes both. Okay? If both are not present, the odds of long-term success are low. Okay, now, so people need to look at this, and they have to really do some soul searching and do some analyzing about whether or not it's worth it. And they may have to experiment. They may have to take several runs at it and find out what happens to their palate. They may have to figure out, what stress it causes socially, and whether or not they can stand up to it and figure out how to negotiate it. They have to figure out whether or not, it's worth the time and attention, in the same way that they take the time and attention to brush their teeth and take their clothes to the dry cleaners and to make sure that they look nice, whether or not it's also worth organizing their kitchen and organizing their menu so that they have a consistent stream of healthy food in the refrigerator and make sure that there's no junk food around. Why? Because the cost-benefit analysis, according to the instincts of eating junk food, if it's within reach, they're super high. Okay? I couldn't work in a donut shop. Yeah, I couldn't work in Starbucks. Too many pastries in there, soy hot chocolate, nothing but trouble. Okay, there's no way. If I worked in there, I'd be transgressing every day, multiple times. Okay, so we're not expecting people to be superhuman. We're expecting them. The very best thing that we can do is to educate people as to the real cause of the problems. If you think that the real cause of the problems are emotional turbulence in your life, you're looking in the wrong place. So that's the answer to this issue. And it gets confusing, and I'll just spend another minute on this. And that is that it gets confusing because after you transgress, then you can be depressed and embarrassed and guilty. Okay? And as you sit in the depression and guilt and self-disgust, then it looks like it's an emotional issue. And then you can also kick over the table and just say, oh, what the hell? You know, I've already wrecked my reputation with myself for today. I might as well eat the rest of it. Okay? And so, and being pulled along by the pleasure trap, you'll pretty well eat it till it's gone. Okay? So that's more or less, so that will happen. So there's a lot of emotional reverberation around this issue, but it's not where you think it is. It's not the misery that drives self-indulgent behavior. Instincts drive self-indulgent behavior. Conscientiousness and motivation and organization can battle against it. Okay, if there's anything that that emotional upheaval, great emotional upheaval, will do, is it's not going to drive you to junk food. It's just going to reduce your motivation to keep yourself organized. That's the biggest thing. So that, you know, that is true. You get short of sleep. You get burning the candle at both ends. It's going to reduce your resolve. It's going to reduce, you know, other things get priority. We start taking shortcuts, etc. All that kind of stuff happens. But if you are looking for the solution to this problem, to somehow reach a degree of emotional equanimity that's going to make it possible for you to have smooth sailing and healthy living, never going to happen. There is no such nirvana or Shangri-La in the universe. Your life will be and is an odyssey of emotional turbulence. That's what it is. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what your emotional life is built of. We want more good things than bad things, but there's just no, those signals are predictors of signs that we see where something isn't going well, to help us try to figure out and mitigate and correct the course. And it's to move us aggressively towards fine opportunities. Those emotions, those feelings are inherently turbulent. And the solution to the problem of healthy living will not be found in trying to eliminate that turbulence. All right.
Thank you. Sometimes you need to say it a few different times for me to really get it. I remember in 2012 in your epic talk at the South Bay Adventist Church when you said people are not overweight because they have emotional problems. They have emotional problems because they're overweight. And the way you just framed it with relapse, they don't relapse because they have emotional problems, but the aftermath of relapse causes them to have some of these emotional problems. So that was very helpful. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is amazing. So the next question I don't